Are we worried about offending people, or are we worried that we won't know how to respond to their actions after we've offended them?
Welcome to Happy to Offend You. Life guarantees that somebody's going to be offended by anything that you do. In fact, somebody right now is offended by life itself, but they don't have to be. This show guarantees that someone is going to be liberated from being offended by somebody else's offensive behavior. What? Yes, we said it. This show sets out to prove not only how to be liberated from being offended, and also how to be happy to offend. So if you're already offended, welcome to the show. And here's your host of the very offensive, Michelle Nedelec. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I am super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Dena. Dena, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So give us the 5,000-foot view of who you are and what you love to do for work.
I am a mom of 5 adults. Oh, I know that sounds so crazy to say. Um, I've been married for over 20 years, and I'm very strong in my faith. And I screw up a lot. I make a lot of mistakes. I have no problem owning my shit and being like, yep, that's my fault. I totally get it. Like, it's okay. And I believe that I should always be growing. I always have to be improving myself. It's time to change is a phrase that I've been using in my world. It has been the forefront of my world for the last 21 years because change is inevitable. And so I am always growing. I'm always looking for how do I do better? And unfortunately, that really puts you sometimes in a place of believing that everything that's wrong is always your fault and no one else is responsible for anything. So that's me.
Everybody's responsible for everything. We're all good with that.
Right?
Awesome. So in short, you're happy to offend people because I don't think you can go through life having adult children and doing what you do without it.
No.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then for my business, I focus on life, faith, and business and walking with people in that journey, focusing on setting our internal, external, and business foundations. Because if we aren't growing, we are our business as online entrepreneurs. If we're not growing, neither can our business. And so we're all connected to the problems and challenges and successes and achievements in our business. And so I think, I like to kind of pull everything together and stop compartmentalizing everything and find a good flow in life and business and figure out help people figure out how they can do everything uniquely for them and stop feeling like they have to follow everybody else's specifics in order for them to feel like they can achieve anything.
I love it. So how did you get into all of this?
It's going to go back to that it's time to change thing. I was sitting on the floor with our 3-month-old daughter. We have a blended family, his, mine, and ours. And so my husband and I had just gotten married. Our daughter was 3 months old. So now we had 4 kids because I had 2, he had 1. And I was sitting there just ready to bawl my eyes out, feeling like I had no value. I was miserable. And I was like, how can I be so miserable when I have a husband who adores me, which I still can't comprehend still to this day. I don't understand it, right? And I have these kids who adore me and look to me for everything, yet I am so unbelievably miserable. I don't understand it. And I just sat there and I was like, God, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm tired of being suicidal. I'm tired of depression. I'm tired of having every bad thing that's ever happened in my life come in and take over and make me feel like I don't deserve to be breathing the air that I breathe every day. And I was just sitting there in this little 2-bedroom house with all these kids and just looking from the outside in going, everything looks amazing. Why? And God just said, it's time to change. And what I realized in that moment was every decision that I had made was because of somebody else telling me what they wanted, and I was trying to people please everybody else. And my life had been like that since I was 5 years old. I remember the moment that shifted in my world. I was a very extroverted child. I would dance and sing. I didn't care who listened or what was happening around me. I'm a very bold, forward person. I say what I think. You know, I'm a wave maker, right? Like I am just that way. And a moment happened when I was 5, and instantly introvert. What do I do to please everybody? Everything about me is wrong. It wasn't how it was intended, but that's how I perceived it.
Mm-hmm.
That was my perspective. And so God said, it's time to change. You've been like this your entire life and you've got to stop. It's not about pleasing everybody else. It's about being who I created you to be and becoming who you're meant to become. And that was the moment I decided to look into personal development. And so many years later of being an entrepreneur, working and doing network marketing, working at a job, always having something else to escape from the mom and wife role that I felt I was so incapable of being. Business, I understood. Business was my escape. That was where I ran to when I felt insufficient in my everyday life, which was every day. And so fast forward many years later, I was running an accounting firm. I did books for small businesses here in Colorado. And God said, I have this amazing opportunity to take on this one client that's going to double my yearly revenue. Fantastic. I can bring on a new person. I can, yeah. And God said, it's time to shut it down, close up shop. But I was like, it's time to write your story. It's time to live a life that I'm calling you to. I talked to my husband. I said, I think I'm crazy.
Right.
I don't know that I'm really hearing, like, is this really what God would want me to do? He's like, if that's what he wants you to do, just do it. I'm like, okay, I guess. Because my husband's like, I got us. Like, we're fine financially. Like, if you do whatever you need to do, I've never had to work. Right. He's just always, if that's what you want to do, I'll support you, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I did. I spent the next 6 months of that year starting to write in a different way and shutting down my business. So getting my clients set up with their new bookkeepers and CPAs and getting them all transitioned. I finished up the year in January with all of their year-end stuff, and I was done. And I was writing. And in June, I think it was June of that year, which was 2016, we got into a car wreck. We were rear-ended, and I went headfirst into the dashboard, and I was down and out for 3 months. I suffered a traumatic brain injury. I lost most of my book knowledge of accounting.
Oh, brutal.
And that was where I was like, okay, I have to do something out. Like I think I always had it in my mind that I could go back to it, you know, but this was that end all. God's like, no, you're not going back.
Not happening.
You're not going to get to know that stuff anymore. And so I got a author coach and I finished my book. It was, looking back, it was not the greatest. In the moment, it was exactly what I needed. Mm-hmm. And I published my book in 2017. And then I started listening to everybody else and stopped listening to God. And it was, you're never going to make money as an author. But see, the goal was never to make money. Yeah. And I got so lost in that. I was like, okay, so I'll be a certified life coach. And I went through this training and I was like, but this is how I function every day. Like, this is how I am. I'm a questioner. So I question people all the time and I, do all this anyway. That was a waste of time and money just so I have credentials after my name. And why am I going to be a coach when this is how I am every day? How do I charge for that and separate who I am from my business? And so I did. I went on that whole life coaching journey and I spent 7 years trying to make it work. And I think the things that I loved the most about that time was the one on one,
Hmm.
helping people grow through and work through their blind spots and feel like they can take a next step, help them with that foundational stuff. What I realized was every person I was working with was an entrepreneur, every single one of them. And everyone came to me because they had an issue in their business. But because I was marketing from a self discovery standpoint and not a business standpoint, people didn't know what I did. So it was a very, it was just a weird 7 years. And then last year I spent, I was like, I'm a good doer. I'll just spend my year doing assistant work. I'll do consulting. And people kept coming to me saying, hey, could you help me with this? Could you help me with this? Could you help me with this? I'm like, sure, I might as well get paid doing something because I spend 90% of my time coaching for free because I didn't realize I was only charging for the self-discovery stuff. And then I'd give everything else away for free inside of what I was doing. That was the business side of things. And I was fighting it tooth and nail. I'm not going to be a business coach. Not going to do it. There's no way. But yet I looked back and was like, well, I've helped people start med spas and I've helped people with their brick and mortar businesses. And people just naturally come to me and ask me all these questions. Maybe that's what I need to do. So this past year was like, well, let me help others in their businesses from this perspective as a doer. And let me see what they really need. Let me figure that out.
Yeah. So talk to me about, because I find the whole thing fascinating. And I think that a lot of people, if not everybody, is in that same boat, is that we try and people please, not realizing that we're people pleasing when it's just, oh, I don't want to be labeled that way because I might offend somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And we put the most ridiculous labels on it. And it's like, how could you offend somebody by helping them build their business? But we get into that. And it's like, and we could charge more, and they're happy to do so because now they know what you do, they know you're good at it, and you're good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, talk to me about that inkling of, I can't label myself as a business coach. What was going on for you that
When I look at business coaches in this online space,
they're offensive?
everyone promises a financial outcome.
Right.
I'm not going to guarantee anybody's going to make any money because who knows if they're going to do anything or not. And so I believed that, well, if I'm not going to promise a financial outcome, I have nothing to offer. And because I was struggling to keep, I sales, marketing, I really need someone to be doing that for me. If I'm going to have, I don't want to be seen. Right? Those are my things. I don't like visibility. That's hard for me. So how do I make myself a business coach or, tell people that's what I do? That's what I've been doing without all these dramatic shifts, without all this dramatic, oh, I help them make all this money. No, my clients were coming to me because they're working with 4 or 5 other coaches that are saying they're going to make them money, but they can't finish the programs because they're stuck. So I'm helping them figure out what parts of all of this to actually utilize in their business so it's unique to them so they can just keep moving forward. That's not something I knew how to market. And I was like, well, if I'm struggling to get clients because I don't know how to verbalize what I do for people, how can I say I'm a business coach and I have any value to offer anybody else? And so I think about, there's so many people that can say, oh, I can teach you the strategy. I'm a teacher. I can teach people all day long. I learned something, I can teach it. I can help you figure out how you can do it better. And I can't do that for myself. I have to have a coach. I have to have other people that help me. And I have to be in a place that I feel I can do that. Like, so I think a lot of it was I was in comparison, right? I was in that imposter syndrome and believing that if I don't have the results other people have that are in those 6, 7, 8 figure businesses, then I have no business. You know, if I'm in the 5 figures, then I still have no business telling anybody else I can help them improve in any fashion. And so I really attached money to everything and my value in this space, which was the biggest detriment to my achievements. Whenever I set that aside, things start going well. And every time I pick that back up, everything goes to shit again.
Right. Well, and I think, and I know for myself, I didn't realize that you have to be able to proclaim something before it happens for you. Like it's like even athletes have to say, I'm an athlete and I'm going to the Olympics, I'm the world's best, before they get the gold medal, because like it has to be this intrinsic thought first, and then the results come. And nobody ever tells us that, and it drives me crazy, and it highly offends me that nobody tells people that it's okay, and you're not really offending other, well, somebody's going to be offended by it, and who gives a shit, because you have to be self-declared before you can prove yourself. It's just the way it goes. You know, you have to know that you're a millionaire before you become a millionaire. You have to know you're an athlete before you become one. You have to know that you're healthy before your results show you. It has to be your thoughts lead to your feelings, lead to your actions, lead to your results. And it has to start there. It's just the way it goes. So when people say, you know, fake it till you make it, some people take that a little too far. It's like, okay, you don't need to fake it anymore. Like, it's just a way of saying, believe it, and the results will come.
Yeah, I heard fake it till you make it for so long, and I hated that because people were so fake.
Right?
Not
like,
even not just that they're saying these affirmations and all this, but they were literally like insert it, like you see them and they have this fake personality and they're trying to make themselves be something that they weren't. I am a extremely I always say I was a born extrovert I'm a converted introvert. I write and I think very differently than I speak or how I act, because there's a lot of times I would love to be like jumping up and down and hooping and hollering and all this extroverted activity. Yet I am so fearful of people's judgment towards me that I won't do it. I won't be that part of myself. And so when people meet me, like, yeah, here I'm very animated. I'm all of that. You get me into a room with people, I am very withdrawn. I'm a wallflower. Put me in a corner and I'll just watch everybody and I'm perfectly happy and content. That I think a lot of that goes back to also recognizing I'm not actually so much like that in business, but I'm like that in my personal life. Very, very restricted in my personal life. Extremely. Like in my household, in everything. And one of my sons asked me a question. And then we were talking about, and this was very recent, and he was asking me about like our parenting styles, because my husband and I have always been on complete opposite ends of parenting and how we do that. And somehow the conversation got into just like when things shifted. And I said, I was bullied so harshly and had so much trauma and abuse between the ages of 8 and 18 that as soon as my kids hit 8 years old, all of a sudden I turn into this freaking hot mess. I don't know how to communicate with them. All I want to do is please them. I do, how do you want things to be? I don't want to dismiss you. I don't want to make you feel like you are invalid. I don't want to, I didn't want them to feel like I felt.
Right.
And so I ended up going the opposite extreme, and they had way too much say in things. And so I was battling this being a parent and parenting the way I believed I should versus not agreeing with how my husband was wanting to parent and trying to still let them feel validated. And just it was a hot mess. I would not be mother of the year in any
Aw.
capacity.
And you're trying so hard. That's the part that sucks. You're trying so hard to do it right, and it's all turning out bleh.
And I was just trying so hard to not do it wrong. I didn't want them to feel the way I felt, only to find out years later when they're adults how many issues they're now having because of how I chose to do things in my brokenness that I was in, and out of my fear, and out of the things that were conditioned into me, and out of my perspective of the world was how I showed up the way I showed up, not to mention undiagnosed illnesses that I had that we didn't find out till very recently that explains so many things. Because I was diagnosed at the age of 8 with massive clinical depression, but there was so much more to it that no matter what I did with therapy or medications or anything, all the way up through my early 20s, nothing helped. Nothing made it better. And so that's when I really leaned into my faith, and God said, it's time to change. And I was like, personal development, Tony Robbins. I have the CDs, I have the cassette tapes, right? Because it was way back then before all this interaction on the internet that you could have. Mm-hmm. And I started watching this personal development stuff, and I was like, this is horseshit. It's such crap. I was like, yeah, I could do these things, but if I don't fix what's wrong with me first, I can't develop into who I'm supposed to become, because personal development is from here, you build on the foundation you already have to keep growing, right? So if you don't work on the self-discovery, which is the first step to personal development, which is what they don't tell you, and that's where you pay for the one-on-one, that's where they do the self-discovery piece, so you can have these massive breakthroughs, then you're not going to get it. So I started doing the self-discovery myself. I started asking myself all the questions. Oh, now I can take this personal development piece, and now I can build it. Now I can grow. Now I can break some of those barriers. But until I worked at the core, at the root cause of what was holding me back, the development piece, how do you develop something that's broken? It's still going to be broken. You're just going to build on top of it. It's going to get weaker and weaker at that foundation and crumble. And realizing I didn't know self-discovery was a thing then. I didn't know about it until like 6.5, 7 years later, when someone put a name to it for me. I was like, oh, okay. No wonder I'm not getting what I need, because I knew I needed the self-discovery, but unless I'm going to spend, $50,000 for a year to work with someone one-on-one, I wasn't going to get it. So I had to do it for myself. Yeah. And I'm so passionate about helping people. And so I've worked with people all the way from, I have an idea to they're making 6 figures, but they still can't figure out why they keep messing up or why things just don't keep working. And it's like, let's just go to your foundation. And they're like, really? You really want to go back there? I'm like, absolutely. Yeah. And guess what? People get offended. People get bothered. Right? I have a client. She loves me to death, and I've worked with her over the past couple of years, and I can always tell when I hit a nerve, because that middle finger will come at me very fast because she doesn't know what else to say, because it really hits her. It hits her, and she's like, "Ooh, I don't want to do that." Then you're not going to break through anything.
I always say it's not a good day until somebody calls me a bitch. It means I've got to. It's like, oh, you hit that. Oh, yeah, that one. Okay. Yeah, we'll deal with that one.
Yeah. And so I think
that one.
Yeah. And I think part of the problem is, are we worried about offending people, or are we worried that we won't know how to respond to their actions after we've offended them. I don't care if I offend people and upset them if I'm not being malicious, right? If I'm being true to who I am and how I am, and I truly care about people and I have a heart for people and helping them. And because I say this, you are offended because it hits a nerve. Okay, that's fine. If you're offended just because you don't like me as a person, there's the door. Not because I'm not willing to improve myself in order to better my relationships. It's just if you're not a person who's willing to grow through things and come out of some of these old patterns, you and I aren't going to work very well because I'm always growing, which means we're going to really drift apart in our everyday relationships, in our family, in our business, and with our clients, all of those things. I never tell people I'm the end all be all. Like, I'm your business sidekick for a time, and we will walk this journey together as long as we need to. And then there's going to be a point where I'm going to say, here's your next step. Go work with that person. And then when you're done with that, let's figure out your next step. And then you're going to go to somebody else. And then, you have a home base, yet you've got to push yourself to work with other people, not get settled in working with one person forever, unless you're actually still utilizing their services in a way that's benefiting and helping you grow. Right. And I think in our everyday life, we have to get to a place that if we are offended by something, we need to be looking at, why are we offended? Why did that offend me? Why did that bother me? And part of it is getting into a feelings wheel and understanding that being offended may not even have anything to do with being offended. It might be a whole nother feeling that you're feeling. You just don't know how to just explain it, and you don't know how to identify it. And so we really have to learn who we are and get to know ourselves and date ourselves and, work on that relationship with ourselves so we can effectively communicate inside of ourselves so that we can then communicate better with others and process our emotions better with others and have those difficult conversations, even if we feel offended, and learn how to navigate that space. But we're never taught how to do that.
Yeah, until we go and seek out how to do that. And then becomes quite the education. I totally agree. So give us an example of one of your clients' Cinderella stories.
Cinderella story.
Yeah, somebody that was a hot mess other than you and turned out all right.
Other than me. I was working with this lady. She was going through a situation where she had a non-compete when she left an agency and went out on her own. Mm-hmm. And she came into this online space in her industry doing what she thought everybody should be doing. We met because we were both a part of another group together. And she was either taking a program or working one-on-one with these other coaches. She was working with 5 other coaches and programs at the time. Mm-hmm. And she decided to come on board to my program at the time. And the goal was 6 weeks. I learned really quickly 6 weeks is not enough because every client I've ever worked with has said 6 weeks isn't enough. 12, like, can we just have you for the whole year? That's the only reason I started these 1-year packages, was because people were like, I can't do this that fast. But I had to remember that I've been doing this for years. It's natural to me. Other people take time because there's so much more underneath. He's like, I just have this money mindset issue. I was like, why do you think you have a money mindset issue? Well, she laid it all out. It's like, I don't think you have a money mindset issue. You might have a block to receiving money, but you don't have a money mindset issue. And we dug into that over, I want to say it was our 10th week. And during those 10 weeks, she was working through so many things And when we finally got to that 10th week, and I was able to ask her this question that she could actually go through this exercise. I tried the exercise at 3 weeks. It was too soon. Tried the exercise at 6 weeks. It was too soon.
Yeah.
Did the exercise at 10 weeks. Massive breakthrough. She realized that because of someone else's decision around money that impacted her way back in college days, she didn't believe she could make good decisions. Not a money mindset issue. She didn't believe she could make good decisions. Well, if you don't believe you can make good decisions and you're running a business and you're doubting every single choice you make, you doubt your merit, you're doubting your ability to, she was doubting everything, her parenting, her part of the marriage, how to handle her finances. She was doubting everything in her life. If you're doubting your value, how are you going to obtain clients? So from that point forward, it was little tiny shifts. Okay, so I don't have to doubt myself. So we worked through the doubt, worked through the lack of confidence, worked through all these. She came to me for business, but this is what I mean. Like, we are our business. We are the success and failures in our business because that is so connected to who we are. Mm-hmm. She just started making these little tweaks. And she was like, then we were able to finally dive into all these other programs that she was taking. And I was able to finally ask her, what do you think you need out of this? Then the business coaching started. Right. So 10 weeks in, and then I think we did another 4 weeks on the self-discovery side, improving all of these things. And then she was ready for the business side. Then for the next, 6 months, I think is what we did on the business side of, what do you believe you need from this program? Let's look at everything you've acquired. How do we pull from that to actually speak to your strengths, to actually help you form the business you want, not create a business someone else is telling you worked for them.
Right.
And then she was like, I'm good. That's a long time. You go into something thinking it's going to be 6 weeks.
Right.
And after over a year of working together on a weekly basis, sometimes we'd have to take an extra week and skip a week because she wasn't ready, because she was still working through and processing emotions and going through some of the activities. But it was one of those things that until you're self-aware,
yep,
you don't really know what you need. And so you're grasping at straws. She's like, I don't have to grasp at straws anymore. I know what I need. I know what my next steps are now. I have confidence. I don't need to doubt myself in that anymore. Like, that in itself, like, that was a complete transformation for her.
Nice.
And it was one of my favorite clients I've worked with.
Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I know our listeners are going to want more from you, Dena. How did they start the journey with you?
I'm pretty easy to find. You can search Dena Adams or Dena S. Adams anywhere on social and you will find me. My website's denaadams.com, or they can even email me at dena@denaadams.com. I like to make it really easy
Nice.
for people to find me if they want to get connected to anything. Every access on my websites, they can access whatever they want from there.
Nice. So you have some opt-ins or some fun stuff that they can kind of test the waters with, or just dive right in and connect with you.
They can do anything. They can hop into my podcast and listen, which is great. I think that's a great way to get to know how people talk and if you align with someone. Mm-hmm. Right now, if they want to get into my world and get into my email, they're welcome to do that. I don't have like this crazy, amazing opt-in, but the best way would be probably my Facebook community. that I recently launched, Walking with You for Online Entrepreneurs.
Nice.
And they can get to know me there. That's all free stuff. I do trainings in there. I do tips and tricks and all that stuff too. So
Dena does tricks.
Awesome. I don't know if I like that one. I don't know if my husband would appreciate that either.
Oh, hilarious. We will have all of your connections and including your Facebook group in the show notes. So peeps, just scroll down, you know how to get to those. Connect there. Dena, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Any last words for our peeps?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This was such a great conversation. I always love sharing my story. I would say moving forward, you have to trust your instincts. You are the only one, you're the only obstacle in your way. So when you really take the time to dig deep into the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves that we always shove away and never want to work on, that's where you're going to have your biggest breakthroughs. That's where you're going to see breakthroughs in every area of your life if you start there. So if you're stuck, that's the best place to go.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you again, Dena. You've been amazing. I appreciate your time. I know how valuable it is.
Thank you so much.
Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and join our Facebook group, Business Ownership Secrets to Scaling. We love connecting with you.